allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'm sorry we're a little bit late. Our planning meeting went overtime, so we are starting roughly 10 minutes late. I note the presence of a quorum. Madam Clerk?
I confirm the presence of the quorum.
Thank you. We have an agenda that's been circulated. Are there any questions about the agenda? Okay, agenda is approved. And then approval of the minutes from the prior meeting, July 8th. Those were circulated. Is there a motion to accept those minutes from July the 8th? So moved. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? None?
One abstention.
One abstention?
I wasn't here.
You were not here, so that's, you cannot approve. So those are approved. And then we have change to the June, or the May minutes. And that was also circulated to everyone. You might make note, Madam Clerk, can you tell us what that change was?
Resolution 2024-13 about the change in the rules of council. I had missed that because I misunderstood what Joan said. So I added it.
We
So
have
now
added
it's in there.
that in. Is there a motion to accept the revised minutes as written?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, those opposed? Okay, so those minutes pass. We now will move to, let's move to public comment. Is there anyone that wishes to address council? Mr. Parrish. For the record, will you state your name and address, please?
Kevin Parrish, 176 Washington Avenue. Once again, I stand before this council and acknowledge myself as being a spokesperson for people of color. As you can see, once again, I'm the only one representing people of color because none of you has asked in July and June if you represent us or we can bring our concerns to you. Acknowledge that you do. Even though you solicit our votes to represent us, there is no representation of people of color by this council members. I wanted to put that on the record so that anybody viewing that can see why I am here. Because people that aren't represented need somebody that is courageous enough to represent them. That is me. As a person that does public servitude, I take pride in my ability to represent people who are less courageous than me to come and voice their issues before a crowd that I'm outnumbered by. But anyway, I wanted to address the issue of the village of Glendale and the fear that you guys have induced on residents to give them a delusional perception of reality. The reality that exists in this community is that we have a water problem, and it affects all residents because we are all connected to it. You guys have spent a lot of money on trying to have a group of people plan and design something that we need a total replacement of this system, starting with the wastewater treatment plant. I notice on the agenda you have some issues that are going to affect all residents with rates, but yet we're curious as to the Kevin Bale missing in action that doesn't come to address this council when he's his chief engineer of this. It confuses me why he doesn't make an appearance to address residents when we have a horrific problem here. Also, I wanted to address the idiotic solution of the Oak Street retention pond. We have a pond that collects water at the end of destruction. It's at the bottom of the hill. The residents between Bethany and the railroad tracks don't see any change because you haven't collected any water to defer the problem. The water is collected at the bottom of the hill. It's already done its damage. I don't know why the engineers didn't see that. intervention would come between the property of Bethany and the first residence, because water, as physics dictates, runs downhill and will continue to. But we're also concerned about the lack of transparency that this village gives. We had a secret government project that put this retention pond in place that didn't require them to give any information, not even to the village of Woodlawn, which this property exists in. Give them any notice about this retention pond being built on their property, although we own it, it's in their jurisdiction. That's amazing. And here you sit as an inadequate administration making idiotic decisions like this and not even addressing the main source of that. For 20 years, over 20 years, they've told you that the wastewater treatment plant is inadequate. It is not even capable of handling the regular water, yet alone the storm water that comes through.
You have about a minute.
I'm surprised you keep such a good time, but let your other program before this go overtime, David, but that's the selectiveness of this administration. I'm the only person to speak on public comment, and yet you restrict for 5 minutes because you don't want to hear what the public has to say. But it is okay. The Phase 1 sanitary project that I took you guys to court on public records is because they didn't fulfill their contract. They were supposed to replace the line on Cole. That did not happen. They were supposed to return money. That did not happen. You lost the pre-construction sign-in sheet that would designate what contractors were doing this work, and yet when I presented a picture of a contractor digging up our streets, you had no knowledge of it. These are the things that show just the corruption of mismanagement here in this village. But thank you. I think we've got some other commenters in the audience.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Parrish. Is there anyone else who wishes to address council? Seeing none? Okay. The next is Mayor's report, Village Administrator's report. I think I'll let the Village Administrator make his report before mine.
Okay.
And that way he can possibly also correct some misstatements that were made during public comment.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Mayor. As much as I would like to address some of the concerns that were raised tonight, the resident that made them has left the meeting. So I will do my best to remember them as he's listed them. The sewer plant was deemed inadequate in 2005. It was promptly redesigned and rebuilt in 2006. It is adequate. In fact, it is capable of handling additional development within the village. Although we don't have any plans for that, the plant is adequately sized and very functional and meets our needs. There are items on the agenda this evening for improvements to our our fresh water distribution system, not to be confused with our wastewater system or our stormwater system, although that is often confused. The Phase 1 sanitary project was completed. Pipe bursting replaced the line on Cole. I'm happy to provide evidence of that to anyone who wishes to receive it. And if there are any other questions about his comments, I'm happy to address those as well, but it's unfortunate that that's the case. Moving on to some other items on my report. The water main replacement project bids have been received, and we'll go over those at length here this evening. The steering committee for the strategic plan met late July to review a draft of the executive summary. I'll be reviewing a full draft of the full plan here in the next few weeks, and then the committee will meet again likely after Labor Day. And the Sharon Road Route 4 signal replacement project is nearly complete. We're now waiting on Duke to install a meter at the lights, but very happy with the new signals there. They'll be up and running once that meter is installed, and we are starting to make applications for reimbursements to SORTA through the grant project. They'll be reimbursing us up to $333,000 of that total project cost, which is about 90%. And then we are doing smoke testing throughout the village to discover interconnections between the sanitary sewer lines and the storm sewer systems. We found one actually in the village square, right near the entrance to the square itself, kind of kind of near statements, and that is pretty dramatic. Actually, to see that smoke coming out of the catch basins. That work is going to continue, especially in the historic district, some of those older lines. So if anyone notices smoke, don't panic. It's supposed to be there. But we are working to identify issues where those are interconnected.
David, can you explain why we're seeing, what is the smoke?
So the way that this system works is we open a sanitary sewer manhole, place essentially a large fan over top of it, and then pump what is party fog smoke into that, and the fan pushes it through the sanitary system. Where it's connected to the stormwater system is where that smoke will travel, downspouts, catch basins, those sorts of things. If they're connected, the smoke will find its way to those and then come up and identify which structures are connected to our sanitary system. Yep. So that, unless there are questions, that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you, David.
Thank you.
It's worth noting that years and years ago, many communities are struggling with this. It was standard practice to connect the stormwater system with sanitary system, and sometimes even considered best practice because in a heavy rain, you would kind of flush out your sanitary system. Nowadays, with increased development, more homes built in the area, it is not best practice. And as David pointed out, the smoke testing is part of the CMOM project that we're working on. And we will be severing those connections, and the stormwater will have its own, go into its own system and stay out of the sanitary system.
Correct.
So that's taking place. So thanks, David, thank you for that report. Thank you for the factual information. Public comment is a time when someone can come and address council. We typically don't engage during that time. It's a time when a resident can say whatever they want to council. And in the situation where someone makes false claims about the village, I think it's always good to provide what the facts are related to any comments that are made. So, David, you did a good job.
If I may, Mayor, I have an
Yes.
additional
Okay.
point of clarification.
Sure.
The pond project, which was referred to as idiotic, it's being located at the bottom of the hill. It is not. It's located where the stormwater enters into the creek that runs parallel to South Troy past Albion. Was installed to help regulate the amount of water in that creek so that the new Albion stormwater system can function properly. It certainly was not a secret project. It was publicly bid, publicly designed, 2.5 years in the Streets Committee thereabouts, and nothing secret about digging a big hole. So just
And I
wanted to
think
add
you
that.
had a conversation with Woodlawn anyway.
Yes,
letting them
materials
know
were
what
sent.
we were going to do.
Materials were sent to Woodlawn, and they had no issues with the project.
Very good.
And Mr. Parrish attended one or two of those meetings.
I'm sure he did.
Yep.
2.5 years is a long time to remember.
Okay, so very good. On to the mayor's report. There were no births or deaths to report, so one of those we'd like more of, and the other one we would like less of. But nothing to report there. Upcoming events. Harry Whiting Brown will hold Shakespeare in the Park. The play they will have this year is Hamlet. It's August the 17th at 7 p.m., so come out for that. There might be a contingency plan if it's too hot, so let's just hope the weather cooperates. And if there is need to move in for the heat, that will be well communicated through the village website. Library will have its craft fair and yard sale on August 24th from 9 to 5. The police department is still conducting their back-to-school drive. That's school supplies for local students. If you want to, you can contribute backpacks, pencils, crayons, any type of school supplies, or they'll accept checks as well.
Anything and everything.
Okay. GYS starts their fall sports mid-month. I think practices will be starting, or maybe have started. They'll be in many of the local parks around the area. And then school, of course, is starting back for the fall semester, so be cautious when driving. I don't know the exact dates that school will be beginning.
I believe Glendale is the 15th.
St. Gabe's 22nd, I believe.
Yeah, St. Gabe's is later and
Okay.
Bethany is later.
Okay, but mid-late August, we'll
Yeah.
be starting back to school. And
The,
you mentioned strategic plan
Mm-hmm.
meetings, so that is ongoing, and there will be a meeting in September.
Likely based on the amount of time to review the draft.
Very good, okay. So that's the mayor's report, and Madam Clerk, could you call this standing committee reports?
Absolutely. Finance Committee, please.
Finance Committee did not meet in July, but we're gonna meet at 4 o'clock tomorrow. Does that still work for everyone? And see you tomorrow.
Very good.
Excellent. Fire Committee, please.
Fire Committee met on July 16. We covered a number of things, pest control in the firehouse. And most important, the fire hydrant replacement and maintenance project, we talked about that. That's really good news. And Mr. Lemson, we'll get into that with some of it. But the fire department has already, reported that you have a vendor in place and under contract to start work on sandblasting, painting the ugly fire hydrants in your neighborhood. So, and that work should begin in about 6 weeks? Did we hear?
No, a couple of weeks.
That's even
3 or
better.
4 weeks, they should be here.
Okay.
They're finishing up another job.
And then the last thing we covered was a warning from the chief on, a budget warning about the increase in the cost of EMS supplies. So that's a scary kind of thing. Anyway, the full action from that meeting, on the website, the minutes are posted. And I turn it over to Chief Yetter now.
Well, the month's been busy, for sure. On the pest control issue, we got a clean bill of health,
Yay.
so that's good. We're working through the transition on bunk beds and things like that. We had the first annual fire safety, police safety summer camp for the children. We had 17 children. This is a huge success. And they already want to know what time they're doing it next year. So that, Chief, this time it's all yours. Okay. But it was a great turnout. So from that point, we've already started into the state of Ohio, through the Fire Marshal's office, will pay for a firefighter 1 course for certifications. And we're starting that program. It's already started. And we got, I believe, almost 20 students in that class from multiple departments around. So it's going very well. That's paid for by the state fire marshal's office. Anything and adjacent to that, the student pays for. So the village is not out any money, other than the students themselves think they can get a reimbursement if they qualify. The other thing is that Chief Lerman became a designee for the Ohio Fire Chiefs program. He did attend the Fire Chiefs Convention or conference in Columbus. He did attend several leadership classes, which was nice, and that didn't cost the village anything except one-night hotel stay. We're working on the BWC grant on fire equipment, and the other thing is that we're working towards the new truck next year, and we're costing out what we anticipate might have to be replaced, but we think if we strategize this right with council, that we time this around selling the existing 245, that will pay for the equipment. So you have a cost neutral situation, and that's what I'm shooting for.
Good.
So all in all,
So Chief, so that's additional equipment that was in?
for the new truck, yes, sir. We need.
Okay.
So I'm trying to keep it to the point that if you sell this asset over here, we have money enough to replace the incoming equipment that's needed for the truck. So there's no dipping any funds other than trading off. So that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Laws and claims, please.
Laws and claims did not meet in July, but we will be meeting in August, just putting a date together now. And so stay tuned for notice.
Thank you. Parks and Recreation.
We did not meet this month. I suspect we'll meet in the next couple of months with budget coming up, but.
Thank you. Police Committee, please.
Police did not meet, and Chief is back from Hawaii, and
Thank God.
it's all yours.
Thank you. Everybody should have gotten a copy of my report for police and for the mayor's court. Other than that, the only things I have to report are Lieutenant Keys, Sergeant Barber, and myself are completing the third part of the trilogy in our leadership course with the FBI this week. So we'll be out for the week.
I would like to thank the fire chief for giving us the opportunity to participate in safety camp. I had a lot of good feedback
Yeah.
and everything
That's
from
good for you
residents
guys.
and everything, so that was good. As far as school at Glendale and St. Gabe's, you will see the crossing lights come back on here probably within the week, so people can get acclimated to that, and that's all I have.
Wait, I have a question. In your monthly report, you showed lost to theft of $1,200. I want to kind of keep track of this kind of stuff. Was that related to cybercrime, or was it something other, pretty pedestrian?
I'd have to go back and look and see what the report was.
Oh, that's right, you were AWOL.
Yes,
Okay, thanks.
I'll let you know.
It's not a wall.
Well,
I was homeless.
that's,
He's literally homeless.
Stuck in the way.
Crossed that off my bucket list.
okay.
Public buildings and historic preservation, please.
Oh, we did not meet in July. We were gonna meet in August, but now we're not. That's it.
Streets, public improvements, and lights, please.
We did not meet this month, but there's obviously a lot going on related to streets, as David updated us about.
Thank you. Utilities, please.
To be consistent, utilities did not meet in July either, at least since the last council meeting. And we do plan to meet week after next week, sometime late, or as early as possible the following week, to be scheduled. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Moving on now to old business. First item in old business is ordinance 2024-34.
How about me,
Oh, I'm sorry?
and the clerk?
Oh, you're correct. See, I'm trying to speed us up. I read the treasurer's report, there's nothing more to say.
Wow.
Fair.
No, you're doing a great job. Go ahead and give us your report, please.
Actually, we're not doing bad, especially given the, the Dow just collapsing today. But thankfully, we've got a lot of investments that are set up for 2 to 5 years out, so we're not losing anything at this time. And we'll just have to see whenever we get our property taxes, whether we have opportunities to invest in any of those funds into something that still can yield us some benefits. But I believe this year we'll probably hit, the way I've got my calculations, we'll probably hit a all-time high in returns. Probably close to 300,000, actually maybe slightly over 300,000.
I was going to say that we had budgeted roughly a 240,000
Yeah.
estimate, but we've gone beyond that
Yes.
with some good vigilance by
And
our
I
treasurer.
did provide the PowerPoint presentation from Huntington. We met with the organization to understand, whether we had any needs from them. And they provided a nice little report on our investments in terms of the ladders, which I don't think I'd shared that previously with with council, but I think this is a good representation of what we're doing. So, if you have any questions on any of that, I can definitely talk to you after this meeting or any other times.
Okay, thank you, Treasurer. Mike, is there a report from the clerk?
There is.
Yes, ma'am.
I reported last month that the state auditor is coming. The state auditor is here. It's in early stages, and it's not just one audit. It turns out it's 2 audits. There is an audit for the UAN transition, and then there's an audit on the books. So there's actually 2 audits going on. So you may hear us refer to 2 different audits, just to be clear on that. And make sure you take your ethics training. Mike sent out the link to it. And make sure that the office has your certification, because that is part of the audit.
Fraud.
The fraud training.
Fraud training, yeah, sorry, fraud training.
Fraud training.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, now on to old business. So, again, ordinance 2024-34, an ordinance authorizing adjustments to the water utility rates and declaring an emergency. David, do you want to give us some background again on this?
Yeah, this is a second read of this ordinance. These are the rates that were discussed at 2 meetings of the Utilities Committee and then ultimately recommended by the Utilities Committee. Happy to take any questions. I circulated a memo prior to last month's meeting with the details relative to these rates.
Declaring an emergency?
Yes, yes, because without it, we would have to wait 30 days before they're effective.
Right, we're not waiving the 3 reads.
Got it.
So in order to,
Yeah,
correct,
yeah.
yeah.
Thank you, okay.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yes. So any questions?
Do you need us to waive the?
No, we have enough time, assuming
We would like this
We
to
get-
go through 3
go through
reads,
September.
since
Yeah.
it's an increase in the rates, and that gives us enough time to
Yep. Mhm.
meet what we would like to see the increase take place.
correct. They'd be effective October the 1st.
Can you refresh me on how we plan to communicate with the public about this upcoming, and then after, assuming it's voted in?
Sure. So this information on these rates is available on our website under Understanding My Utility Bill. Includes short little financial descriptions of how these rates need to change in order to meet our expenses on the water and the sewer side of the utility. We have additional financial information. It's a little denser that folks can take a look at if they'd like. But we will be continuing to market these increases and make sure that folks are aware of them well in advance of them going into effect. And they will appear, the first billing will be the January 2025 billing. So we have about 5-6 months to get the message out there.
And David, as always, if any of the residents have any questions about this whole thing, they can contact the office.
Absolutely.
Or
We
email.
encourage them to, yeah.
Yes. Okay, so that will come back next month, at which time we'll take a vote. The next ordinance is ordinance 2024-35, a related ordinance. Ordinance authorizing adjustment to the sewer utility rates and declaring an emergency. David, again, can you just give us a little background?
Sure. Same principle, same logic here. There is between the two ordinances a slight adjustment in the minimum, reducing the sewer minimum dollar amount while increasing the water dollar amount to kind of offset where our revenues are heading when we receive them. And also, too, is the adjustment of the minimum gallons from 7,480 down to 5,000 to better bill and more accurately bill based on real usages, which is a benefit that we enjoy now because of the new water meters.
Any questions? Okay, this will come around again for a 3rd read next month as well. Moving on to new business, ordinance 2024-36. An ordinance tentatively accepting bids for water main replacement project contracts 3 and 4 and authorizing the village administrator to execute required contract documents contingent upon approval of funding, applications, and appropriation of funds by council and declaring an emergency. So David, we'll get into this a little bit as an overall, for the water main replacement projects. There are several of those we're looking at right now.
Becky, can you turn the TV on?
Okay. Some of these have been engineered, more than projects 3 and 4. There was 1 and 2 that were also engineered. And we'll be going even further to areas like Woodbine and Greenville, eventually to have those engineered. But David and his administrative team, along with council, have kind of teed up a sequence. We've worked with the engineer on one of the most critical areas for improvement in water mains, and also some of the sewer areas where we're doing the smoke testing to try to disconnect our storm from our sanitary. These are all kind of going on at once. David has received bids back, and so David, I'll let you take it from here regarding these 4 main projects. Basically, we'd like to get 2 started, and then the 2 other ones will follow immediately after, over about a 4-year period.
That's correct. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
So starting essentially left to right, you have blue, yellow, green, and pink. From left to right, for the purposes of our conversation, we'll call them 1, 2, 3, and 4. We bid with EES and 0% planning loan through the Ohio Water Development Authority. We bid all 4 of these main replacements. We bid them as separate contracts, which gives us the freedom to select one or all of them or any number in between, and made sure that the contractors were aware of that. And I circulated to council a memo with the bid results. You can see some contractors bid all of them, most bid all of them, some did not. Some bid 1, 2, 3 contracts. But we did bid them separately to give us the ability to pick and choose based on need and cost. So after receiving the bids and evaluating the bids, the water mains 3 and 4, so the green and the pink here on the map attached, are identified by the engineer, and I agree with the engineer's assessment, as the most necessary replacements, most urgent replacements. Largest driving factor for that is the condition of the roadways there. The historic district, specifically Fountain and Ivy, are in a desperate need of repaving. And then, of course, Albion and Short Albion Avenues are in a pretty bad condition as well. We've recently wrapped up stormwater project on on Pink, on Albion, and wanted to go ahead and get the water main replaced before doing a full repave of that and Short Albion. Additionally, Short Albion, so the distance between Albion and Oak, is essentially Swiss cheese. That main leaks and breaks very frequently. They're not large, but they are numerous, and Kevin and his team have been out making repairs there for a number of years, so we want to get those addressed. Going back quickly to projects 1 and 2, so the blue and the yellow. These projects were included based on line size and based on the projected age of the mains. Now, these projects are not included in this initial round of work. The cost to include them was significantly higher than we anticipated. In fact, so much higher that the village would actually be legally obligated to rebid the projects. They exceeded 110% of the engineer's estimated cost. So as a result, we would have had to rebid that work, and that would cost precious time in getting all of the projects completed. So at this point, we're recommending moving forward with 3 and 4. Based on the timelines that we've discussed, we anticipate, if council approves the tentative acceptance this evening, we can get the funding application submitted and approved by the end of the month, get funding moving by fourth quarter of this year, get work underway very shortly after, and have the green, so project 3, replaced. The goal would be replacement by completing by the spring of next year, so that then they can move over to project 4, the pink, in summer of 2025 to coincide with Bethany's schedule, so that Bethany's school schedule isn't interrupted by lack of water. Then the plan would be based on available funding and timing to follow very shortly after with repaving of the affected areas, and specifically Ivy, Fountain, and Albion and Short Albion. So if there are any, pretty much summarizes the work. If there are any questions, happy to take them. But this is a very, very significant improvement to our system, and looking forward to get it going.
$2.5 million for 3 and 4.
Correct.
What's the neighborhood of the cost for 1 and 2?
Neighborhood of costs for 1 and 2 were somewhere between 3 and 3.5 for those 2 projects. Now there is, and aside from overworking the utilities department, because obviously they have to very closely work with the contractors as they're working through the village, moving 1 and 2 onto a separate timeline also helps with spreading out debt service. And based on kind of an approximate timeline, think that by the time the sewer debt service falls off in 2029, which is about $400,000, we can anticipate picking up the debt service for projects 1 and 2, so that rate increases at that time don't need to be as drastic, because we're leveraging some of that debt service that's coming off.
So yeah, I'm keeping in mind some of Mr. Parrish's comments. So we are essentially looking at close to $6 million investment in the village water infrastructure over the next 4 years.
Yes,
4 to 5.
4 to 5.
Okay.
4 is a little aggressive, but yeah,
Okay.
yes.
On top of major water improvements with replacement of the
Correct,
main
yeah.
under Sharon Road,
Mm-hmm.
the valving that was installed up near the water tower that allows for better connection to Greater Cincinnati if we do have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And these things all took place over the previous 5 to 10 years.
Just about.
More than that has happened, but we're following a sequence that was laid out by the engineers early on as to which projects were most critical. And again, these two, the green and the pink, are the next ones up. We anticipate the pink taking place summer of '25, and then move on to the yellow and blue projects in '26 or '27, somewhere in that time frame. So we're just continuing to roll these things. We can't do it all at once, but we will continue to make these improvements as we go.
Mm-hmm.
I did mention it's likely Woodbine and Greenville will be next up, but that is 4, 5, 6 years away. And after we get a couple of these tackled, then we'll move more urgently onto those projects. There's plenty of time for us to plan this out.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, Dave, so for 1 and 2, do we plan to do any more engineering in the meantime? or-
So the engineering on those projects is complete. The nice thing about the way that we're doing this is the engineering loan, and this was the way that it was managed for Sharon as well. The design loan was rolled into the construction loan. So rather than the loan is 5 years, the design loan is 5 years. So the payments on that would be pretty significant. It's a $300,000 loan. That loan is rolled into the 30-year water main replacement loan. That cost applies to all 4 of these projects. So when we come to completing or getting ready to bid 1 and 2, essentially need to dust off the engineering, make sure it's up to date, and put it out to bid and run the process, and we're ready to go. There's no additional, maybe some, kind of confirmation work, but nothing significant. The engineering is complete for all 4 projects. We're just only proceeding with 2 of them at this time, with the goal of moving into the next ones in the next year or 2 or 3.
But 1 and 2, we exceeded by 110%.
Correct.
If we send the same thing out, we're just hoping that the numbers are gonna go down? or-
No, we'll amend the engineer's estimate,
So we're-
because if we're going to bid these in the next 2 years, we'll add inflation and
So
all
we'll,
those sorts of things.
we'll increase it based on the input that we got.
So it's
Okay.
more like a $6.5 million investment. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Let's just
We want that to go down.
Well, but, it's unfortunate that Mr. Parrish isn't here to.
I mean, the other big project was the connecting the water tower to
Yes.
Cincinnati, which has
Yes.
enabled us to function all the time whenever
Yes.
we have water breaks.
That was that valving we put in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any further questions about this work?
David, could you just briefly describe what the work looks like when it's happening? So as people are starting
Sure.
to think, I live on Ivy, what's this gonna look like this
Yeah.
winter?
Water
Um,
buckets. Bring the water.
So for anyone who may have seen the work on Sharon, essentially the contractor will come through, will cut a trench in the road, excavate out that trench. They will come in and they will lay the new main. They will make the connections for the old main to the new main, charging it as they go. The work itself is kind of methodical. It's pretty straightforward. The old main will be abandoned in place. It won't be removed, but the new main will run right alongside it, and then the connections will be replaced from the main to the shutoff valve, which is somewhere between the street and sidewalk for most properties. Wanted to mention as well that the alternates for these projects are included in this total bid price. That includes the replacement of service lines for private residents from the street to the home. Now, they're included in the price, but they're not something that we anticipate the village to pay for. Instead, we will assess the property taxes of any homeowner that intends to take advantage of it. That service line replacement is very necessary when we're talking about some of the materials of our lines.
Lead.
Yes, though we don't know specific locations, all of the addresses were bid in anticipation of the total project cost. But Sharon Road, we didn't have anyone that took advantage of it, but it is worthwhile to the village, in my opinion, to offer it. With a deferred kind of payment plan for folks that might not be able to take the whole cost at once.
Thank you.
Okay, so is there a motion for this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and is there a motion to dispense with 3 reads?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, very good. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
For ordinance 2024-34, to dispense with the 3 reads, Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Baseman.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Is that
Aye.
34?
Ms. Fleury.
It's 36, isn't it?
Yeah, it's.
Oh, sorry, it's 36, sorry.
36.
Okay,
I wasn't sure.
it's okay.
I was
Sorry.
confused.
I was hopeful.
Yeah, it's me. I got a cheat sheet from somebody being helpful. Sorry. For ordinance 2024-36, to dispense with the 3 reads, I have a yes from Ms. Masenko, Mr. Basemith, Mr. Kreidler, and Ms. Baldridge. Ms. Fleury.
Aye.
Ms. Rochelle.
Aye.
For ordinance 2024-36, Ms. Masenko,
Aye.
Mr. Basemith,
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler,
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge,
Aye.
Ms. Fleury,
Aye.
Ms. Rochelle.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next ordinance is ordinance number 2024-37, an ordinance authorizing the village administrator of the village of Glendale to apply for, accept, and enter into a water supply revolving loan account agreement on behalf of the village of Glendale for construction of water facilities, execute a work order with Environmental Engineering Services, EES, for required engineering inspections services, and designating a dedicated repayment source for the loan and declaring an emergency. David, can you give us the background here?
Thank you, Mayor. This ordinance authorizes me to apply to the Ohio Water Development Authority through their water supply revolving loan account program, which is a low-interest loan program. It's the same program that the village has used for other water projects. To apply for a loan for the projects 3 and 4 that were just tentatively accepted by council. Upon application, there's a period where OWDA review the loan application and ultimately approve funding. Between then and now, we do have some documentation that needs to get signed and certain agreements that I need to be able to enter into in order to secure that loan. Right now, as of August 1st, the loan rate is 2.96%. It's a 30-year loan. Estimated debt service would be somewhere between 140 and 150 if the entire contract is executed. That means including all of the alternates. So that's a fairly conservative estimate in my mind. So that is the estimated loan service. Now we were, through the rate increase conversations, we're looking at somewhere between 240 to 270. Now, of course, those rate increases don't go out to when we anticipate this debt service to start, but a little bit lower debt payment to start with is not a bad thing. So, unless there are any other questions, it's.
I have a question. On the work order to be generated, is that been included in the 300,000 plus value contract that we have with the engineers?
No, this work order would be for the actual construction engineering, so the inspections, monitoring, and then review and approval of documentation and work by the contractor.
So this was similar to monitoring installation of the smart meters?
Correct.
Which we spent $72,000?
Yes, this is going to monitor the installation of the water main, inspect the work, and verify the quantities from the engineer.
What is the estimated cost of this?
At this point, I don't have a firm number from EES, but I do not anticipate it to exceed about 10% of the project cost. Given the amount of work that is been put into it, I would say somewhere between 150 and 200,000. But again, that assumes that that's the total project, the total cost of the project. Base bid would be closer to 150.
So does this go out for any competitive comparison or bid?
No, the village's engineer is our contract engineer. We did an RFP with the ES a couple of 10 years ago, and they were selected as the village's utility engineer, and the cost for their engineering will be bundled into the total cost of the loan.
So I understand the contract exists with environmental engineering services, but that prohibits the village from making comparison of performance and cost?
It does.
And does it say that in a contract, that we will not compare your rates? In other words, what I'm saying, David, is that it seems they dictate the rate. They will
Well,
tell us what it
they
is.
are performing the work on our behalf. So yes, they would dictate their cost of doing business. The amount of the work is dependent, the amount of the project or their work order is dependent on the amount of work that has to go into the actual execution of the work itself, the inspections, monitoring construction, verifying quantities, that sort of thing. But yes, because they are our contract engineer, we are required and obligated to use them.
This will be more comparable really to the work that was done to replace stormwater piping on Hedgerow and Albion. There were engineers on site daily to inspect the work and to also communicate between contractor and village.
Correct.
And I do understand the necessity for observing the progress and quality. I personally question that the vendor or the engineer can tell us what it's going to cost.
Okay. And we've had this discussion before, but just to cut to the chase on this one, in the past, we've discussed perhaps putting an RFP out for village engineering services, is my understanding, that you put out the RFP, the engineer signs up, and they are our engineer for some period of time. So perhaps at some point, we can consider an RFP with multiple engineering firms, see what they come back with, and then, but to do it on a per contract basis or a per project basis, it just doesn't, that's not how this works. I'm not crazy about it either, but this is just how this type of work is conducted.
For the benefit of the people who are not attending, who do not attend the utilities committee meeting, basically that engineer has been the engineer that we use since 2014. It's now 10 years without any, to my knowledge, comparison with other firms. So I think that, not this time, but it's something that needs to be done in the future.
Okay.
Can I ask, was the original RFP that was sent out and that EES was granted the contract for a period of time, like 10 years or?
It's an automatically renew. I don't remember the term off the top of my head, but it's an
Okay, all
automatic.
right, so that's the mechanism
agreement.
for that, they keep rolling over, right? Okay.
Now if we go out and we go through that RFP process, we're adding easily 6 months to any project timeline that we're looking to accomplish. And in addition to that, there is no guarantee that a competitive bid is going to render a more competitive contractor. Engineering costs are largely fixed. They're about 10% of a project. If a contractor does it for less, they'll likely get us somewhere else. I've been very pleased with EES's work. They've been very reliable, very easy to reach. I've heard stories of previous larger engineers, larger firms that may seem more professional in their sales pitches, may seem more brushed up, and we're regulated to new engineers that don't get the necessary understanding and training on our systems. So Kevin has been very, very happy with them. I've been very happy with them. So I'd like to continue our relationship with them and get this work completed as soon as possible.
Okay.
Yeah, I support that. We need to continue with that, but I also support that we need to do a RFQ for engineering services. It doesn't mean that they're gonna take over doing all the waterworks stuff, but it's like, it's, in the business, it's like you've gotta have competitive bids on to keep basically contract firms providing the best service at the best cost. So by doing that, you get an opportunity to see what are the going rates in the environment. So
Mhm.
So I'm not saying let's jump horses. I'm just saying we gotta have an RFQ process at some point.
Sure.
Because we can't just keep saying, well, we're
Okay.
happy with them, so.
I'm mindful of time, what else?
I'm not suggesting we can make changes in engineering midstream.
Mhm,
I'm
right.
suggesting that long-term, that we need to do so.
I agree. Okay. So, any other questions about this particular ordinance? So is there a motion for the ordinance, 2024-37?
Second.
And a motion to dispense with 3 reads?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
For ordinance 2024-37, to dispense with the 3 reads, Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Basemuth.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
Ms. Fleury.
Aye.
Ms. Rochelle.
Aye.
For ordinance 2024-37, Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Basemuth.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
Ms. Fleury.
Aye.
Ms. Rochelle.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next ordinance is ordinance 2024-38, an ordinance authorizing the village administrator to enter into an agreement for the purchase of natural gas for the village of Glendale, Ohio Natural Gas Aggregation Program, and declaring an emergency. David, would you give us some background here?
Thank you, Mayor. As we do every once in a while, comes time for us to renew our aggregation agreements for electricity and natural gas. This year is natural gas. The natural gas market has been odd over the last few months, to put it gently. And our consultant, which is listed here under Section 1, the Affordable Gas and Electric Company, has done some very, very good work for us in securing a price that's about 18% lower than the current Duke price to compare. Now, it is a 12-month agreement, 12 months because we truly don't know where the natural gas market is going to go in that time period. But we have confidence that that is going to be a good rate for that 12-month period. So this ordinance would authorize me to enter into those agreements and execute that for aggregation customers.
Okay. And David, individuals can opt out of this aggregation if they so choose.
Correct. So assuming that we agree to move forward with this, folks will receive letters that are notifying them of the new aggregation rate, and they will be given an opportunity to opt out of the program. As always, opting out is free. Coming back is free. There's no costs involved with joining or leaving the village's aggregation program. We always caution folks with third-party vendors. They might have contracts, cancellation charges, whatever. The aggregation program is typically the easiest way to save on energy.
Okay.
So, David, that's an excellent point. So, for residents that have opted out of the previous
Yes.
program, so they've gone with someone else because they were able to get better
Mhm.
rates, what happens to those customers when this comes into agreement now?
So if they've opted out, they remain opted out. We don't re-enroll. If they choose to re-enroll, they would need to contact us. We can either get them in touch with IGS. AGE does work with residents directly to assist them in re-enrolling, to get them onto the aggregation program. As far as canceling who they're with now, it depends what they're up to. But enrolling is very, very easy if you've opted out, or you can remain opt-out and continue to shop.
Okay, great information.
Any questions about this ordinance?
Yeah, sorry, just one last thing. Will residents, the information they get about this particular arrangement, will it be clear to the residents that this is an aggregation agreement through the village? Because you get tons of various firms sending things, and it's hard to, at times, to sort out what is what.
Yeah, so the letters that they receive will have the Village of Glendale logo on them.
Perfect, that's.
And then we're also going to do typical newsletter blitz
Okay.
to inform folks that the letters are coming and that, the things to watch out for. But yes, we will
Okay.
make sure. And if anybody ever gets anything that they're unsure about, feel free to give us a call. We're happy to verify at the office whether or not it's legit.
I'm gonna ask you about electric aggregation after this, but,
Okay. So is there a motion for this ordinance?
so moved.
Second.
Okay, and a motion to dispense with 3 reads.
So moved. Second.
Okay. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
For ordinance 2024-38, to dispense with the 3 reads, Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Basemuth.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
Ms. Fleury.
Aye.
Ms. Rochelle.
Aye.
For ordinance 2024-38, Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Basemuth.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
Ms. Fleury.
Aye.
Ms. Rochelle.
Aye.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, the next ordinance is ordinance 2024-39, an ordinance amending section 34.08 of the Glendale Codified Ordinances and declaring an emergency. David, can you tell us a little bit about this one?
Certainly, thank you, Mayor. This is less of a change, actually this is not a change from how we've been operating, but rather a step in updating our code to match how we've been operating. The village has a number of part-time employees. A number of those part-time employees have continuous years of public service, whether it's police officers or administrative employees, public works employees. They have continuous public service, which by, frankly, my training coming in to this position and the way that the village had been operating, qualified them for longevity pay under our code. Recently discovered that it is not written that way. That there is no differentiation between full-time and long-time, or full-time and part-time employees when receiving longevity pay, when in fact the practice has been that full-time receive full pay as outlined here, and part-time employees receive half of that, which is again outlined here. So this ordinance would just bring our code up to speed with what our practices are.
Okay. So, are there questions about this ordinance? Hearing none. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
And is there a motion to dispense with 3 reads?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Pick one. Can't wait to say which Amy got the second. I know.
Sometimes I go back to the video. For ordinance 2024-39, to dispense with the 3 reads, Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Basemuth.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
Ms. Fleury.
Aye.
Ms. Rochelle.
Aye.
For ordinance 2024-39, Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Basemuth.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
Ms. Fleury.
Aye.
Ms. Rochelle.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Finally, we have been in receipt of financial reports. Can someone acknowledge and confirm the receipt of the June 2024 reports? Yes? Anybody?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Wait,
Oh, wait.
just real fast. So electric aggregation, what do
Yes.
we, how, where are we?
It's on the website. That's my punt answer until I can
Okay,
update
fine.
myself. My head's been in gas.
Fine, okay.
So a motion to adjourn then.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, looking at the clock. It's 1 hour. We started late.
Yeah.
Good job, Mayor.